Last season, AFC Wimbledon beat Colchester United 5-3 at home in a thrilling game, and this time around was nothing short of remarkable as well. 6-goal bonanza as the Dons came from 2 goals behind to secure victory. Now, Johnny Jackson lined up his Wimbledon side with a 3-at-the-back system, which they'd used at times towards the end of last season. New striker Matty Stevens making his club debut after moving from Forest Green Rovers. Meanwhile, Colchester gave starts to goalkeeper Matt Macey, new centre-backs Tom Flanagan and Ben Goodliffe, as well as midfielder Jack Payne and John Kamani Gordon. Into the match, and boy did AFC Wimbledon make it hard for themselves as Colchester got their dream start in under 60 seconds into the new season. A deep left-footed cross from the right-hand side from Jack Payne, who joined from Charlton in the summer, found Ben Goodliffe on his debut, unmarked at the back post 6 yards out to bury his header, tapping his wrist in his celebration as well, noting the time. Payne was on hand again to find his new buddy Goodliffe as the new signings combined again just 8 minutes later to put Colchester 2-0 up. A long-range free kick was curled into the area from the left, and Goodliffe rose highest to warn everybody of his aerial ability, heading over past Owen Goodwin in goal to wheel away, pointing his wrist again in celebration to the travelling away fans. But Wimbledon reacted, and they reacted quickly, as on 13 minutes, James Bell was credited with deflecting Omar Bougil's effort into the opposite corner from the already diving Matt Macey. The home support was spurring the team on at every opportunity, and on the half-hour mark, Jake Reeves curled a ball through a sea of bodies in the box after Alistair Smith had his effort saved by the feet of Matt Macey to bring the game level at 2-2. The referee then had a massive call to make as he awarded a penalty on 37 minutes against John Kamani Gordon. He'd sort of turned away, trying to defend a headed ball back across the box. It hit his arm. It was a cross with his arm out. I don't know. It's difficult from the TV angles to see it. And let's be honest, is anybody really sure what the handball rule is these days? Either way, the ref Daniel Middleton gave it, and new signing Matty Stevens sent Macey the wrong way to turn the game on its head. The second half had just one more goal to give, as after Smith had rattled the bar, Colchester failed to clear, and last season's top scorer for the Dons, Bugiel, got his name on the charts this season with a header in the 54th minute. Wimbledon 4-2 victors. Johnny Jackson said afterwards he was delighted if he took away the first 10 minutes, and Wimbledon will surely be happy with an opening day 3 points, 4 goals, and an entertaining game to boot. Next up, Wimbledon will look to carry on their winning start away at League Two Newport's Bromley with a double header as they face the same opponents in the EFL Cup in midweek, while Colchester in reverse will be wanting to bounce back at home in the league to Wimbledon rivals MK Dons. Barrow marked their third successive opening day win in a row, this time under new manager Stephen Clements over last season's playoff finalists Crewe Alexandra. Clements' first lineup named 3 of his new signings, with left-back Ben Jackson, centre-back Theo Vassell and winger Connor Mahoney all making a start, while Crewe saw 5 of their new additions in their starting 11, which included Kane Hemmings making his debut up front after his move from Stevenage. And it was Hemmings who almost opened the scoring for Lee Bell's Crewe side. He hit the bar from a close-range header, out-jumping the defender from a cross after Sealau Tracy had picked out the new striker. 2 Barrow new boys then combined for their first goal of the season, and it was a set piece that did the trick. Connor Mahoney curled in an in-swinging corner with his left foot. It missed the melee of players at the front post, but met the outstretched boot of the defender Theo Vassell. The centre-back matching his total goals scored for Salford in the entirety of last season with his opening day effort for Barrow. Crewe looked to battle back, but the woodwork for short was not their friend at Holker Street, as a curling outside the box effort from Tracy hit the post with goalkeeper Paul Farman stranded, but relieved to see it bounce away. Tracy was certainly Crewe's biggest threat all afternoon, and in the second half he again beat his defender, chipping a ball towards the back post, which almost found its way into the net as Barrow managed to hold firm. The home side did test Philip Marshall with a Mahoney strike, but they did see the game through for a well-fought opening day, 3 points. Barrow will look to back up their victory in the league next weekend, away at Carlisle United after a midweek cup visit by Port Vale, while Crewe take an EFL trip to Rotherham in the Cup on Tuesday before they welcome Chesterfield next Saturday. It took until October for Cheltenham Town to score 3 league goals last season, but their home fans were treated to a trio of goals at home against Newport County on opening day this time around. Both clubs were going into their opening League Two encounter of the season with new managers at the helm. Michael Flynn and Nelson Hardeem were both making their managerial bows for their respective clubs and served up an afternoon of entertainment. Attacking midfielder Joel Colwill had signed for Cheltenham Town from Cardiff under-21s in the summer, and the 19-year-old had opened Cheltenham's account for the season. A cross was not dealt with well by the Newport defence, with shots blocked and the ball bouncing around and pinballing in the box. Colwell put his boot through it from close range, firing it low into the Newport net. 5 minutes later, another newbie, Liam Dawson, signed from Bedford Town, scooped home a close-range effort after a pivot turn and ball pass from Ryan Bowman. The Newport defenders were static again, and the second man again unmarked, finding themselves punished twice in the opening half an hour. But the visitors did manage to roar back. Bobby Camwell was tripped charging past Lewis Payne in the box and having his leg clipped for the referee to point to the spot. Courtney Baker-Richardson, returning to the club for a second spell, calmly fired in the penalty into the bottom left-hand corner, with Owen Evans diving to the right the other way. Just before half-time, Newport were level after a quick touch-off move, so Oliver Greaves entered the area with the ball deflecting its wake on a throw as he bounced in, hitting an initial shot well saved by Evans, but it rebounded and we reacted quickly to fire the second effort past the keeper and take the game level. Newport continued to push in the second half. They had some aerial efforts that didn't quite find their target, but Joel Colwell was not finished and capped off his debut to remember. It was found by Ethan Archer free on the right-hand side of the box. Cole took the ball into kind of a tight angle, but he somehow managed to beat Nick Townsend with a low finish at his near post in the 6th minute of injury time, sending the home fans into raptures as Cheltenham secured all 3 points on day one. Cheltenham Town will look to back up their good start away at Grimsby next weekend after a long trip to Plymouth midweek in the EFL Cup first round, while Newport will head for a cup tie at Leyton Orient before a tricky home tie in League Two against Doncaster Rovers. Doncaster Rovers flew their way to the top of League One with a convincing 4-1 victory over John Doolan's Accrington Stanley at the Eco Power Stadium on opening weekend. Both teams had been busy in the transfer market over the summer, with a host of new players on show for both teams, with each team mirroring each other with a 4-2-3-1 style formation to begin the match with. In the match, Jordan Gibson hit a post early on as Doncaster remained patient looking for the breakthrough, their first goal coming from Lee Molyneux, sweeping home an inside-the-box finish after a smart chest and pass across from Jamie Sterry. But it was just after half-time that Tyler Wharton on his Accrington Stanley debut brought the sides level, after Sean Worley stood up across to the back post for Wharton to run on and meet with his head from close range to put Accrington in the goals for column. From there, it didn't go to plan though for Accrington, as Grant McCann's Doncaster side really took the game away from them. A couple of close efforts, which included a Molyneux strike against the bar. He had found his range and he then unleashed a thunderbolt from 30 yards, which flew past the helpless Michael Kelly into Stanley's top right-hand corner. It was 2 for Molyneux, added to the 2 in the last 2 at the end of last season. He got one in the playoffs as well, so on great scoring form at the end and start of this season. Molyneux then turned provider for Jordan Gibson, hitting a pass, who then Gibson sold a dummy. The Accrington defender slid in. He brought the ball forward, dribbling it eccentrically before hitting an excellent right foot control curling effort again towards that top right hand corner. 2 excellent individual goals from a Doncaster perspective. Billy Sharp then made it the perfect afternoon on his return off the bench, marking a decade since his first spell with the club with 3 minutes to go, wrapping his leg around a knockback from Harry Clifton after a set-piece situation. 4-1 the score, and Doncaster setting a marker down to their promotion and title rivals. Doncaster will look to maintain their strong opening day result with a trip to Newport next weekend, who saw a 3-2 loss of course to Cheltenham, while Accrington will hope an EFL Cup trip to Tranmere can provide confidence before the visit of Harrogate next in the league. Fleetwood Town got their League Two return underway with a 1-0 win at home to Grimsby. After failing to win their first 9 league fixtures in the previous season, none of that this time around, 3 points straight away on the board for Fleetwood. Zach Medley, Mackenzie Hunt and Mark Helmer's new signings were all on show from the off for the Cod Army, while Grimsby gave start to their new players Jordan Wright, Cameron McJanet, George McEachran and Jason Daddy Svan Thorson. Grimsby started the game well and probably the better of the two, to be honest, but they failed to take advantage of early chances as Charles Vernon shot wide and Svan Thorson's goalbound attempt was blocked on the line. It was Fleetwood's new signing Mackenzie Hunt who not only found the opening goal, but as it turned out, the only goal of the game, finishing close to the penalty spot, steering a left-footed effort low into the bottom left-hand corner after a pullback from Mackenzie Hunt. Now, there was a break for a medical emergency during the game in the crowd, so I do hope that everybody in that situation turned out to be okay. The other key moment was Ronan Coughlin had a goal correctly ruled out for offside. The end of the game kind of petered out and Fleetwood comfortably held onto their lead to win 1-0. Now, Grimsby, over the course of 90 minutes, failed to land a single shot on target at the Fleetwood goal. They came closest with that Svan Thorsen effort that was blocked on the line, and they looked a bit flat in some of their attacking after their early burst. So plenty to think about for manager David Artell. A good 3 points, though, from Fleetwood and a goal from a new signing on opening day is always a positive start. The Cod Army faced Notts County next in League Two away at Meadow Lane after hosting Championship opposition West Brom in the EFL Cup. Grimsby will host Bradford City in the Cup and then Cheltenham Town in the league next weekend. Gillingham score 4 for the first time in over 3.5 years as Carlisle are beaten 4-1 on opening afternoon at the Priestfield Stadium and the League Two season opener. The Gills fielded an entirely new front line with Aaron Rowe, Jack Nolan, Armani Little and Jacob Wakeling all signing in the summer and getting the starting nod from Mark Bonner in his first game in charge. While Carlisle had a new backline on show with Ben Williams, Aaron Hayden, Terrell Thomas and Archie Davis all making their debuts. In the match, it started quickly as Tim Dieng took advantage of a spilled ball in the box early on to start Gillingham's season off after just 2 minutes. Carlisle goalkeeper Harry Lewis palmed down and Aaron Rowe had a shot blocked before Dieng found the back of the net. Now, Carlisle could and probably should have been level with a host of good chances, which included Ben Barkley and new signing Charlie White hitting the crossbar from close range as well. But Gillingham doubled their lead just after half-time as Wakeling showed good anticipation and speed to pounce on a miscontrolled pass from Thomas before slotting a left-footed place slot shot past Lewis in the goal. John Mellish brought Carlisle back into the game after 65 minutes as Gillingham failed to deal with the cross, but the home side scored the best goal of the game when new signing Jack Nolan, who was obviously so prolific for Accrington Stanley last season, dribbled down the right and slammed a high left-footed strike into the roof of the net from a tight angle. Carlisle's defending was a bit suspect, but taking nothing away from an excellent dribble and finish from Nolan. The game was then over with 3 minutes from the 90 as experienced midfielder Jonathan Williams drove low from outside the box into the bottom corner to cap off a very good scoreline for Gillingham, but one that Carlisle will be disappointed with. Can Gillingham follow up this strong result at Morecambe next weekend is the question, but they have the prospect of an away tie in the EFL Cup at Swansea City to contemplate first. While Carlisle will welcome Stoke City in the Cup to Brunton Park, and then they have Barrow in the league on Saturday. Bromley made their EFL debut away at Harrogate Town, and a second half double made it the perfect start for Andy Woodman and the home fans with a 2-0 victory. In the starting lineups, Harrogate opened their campaign featuring 2 of their 3 summer signings in defender Zico Asare and forward Stephen Duke McKenna. Bromley strengthened their side over the summer, but they had retained their legendary striker Michael Cheek for their first EFL game in their history. It was Cheek who thought he had opened the scoring in the first half from a corner, but he saw his header cleared by Harrogate's Levi Sutton off the line. Both sides went close with efforts, but ultimately the game remained goalless as they approached half-time. It took 62 minutes for the first goal to appear, and it was, of course, that man, Michael Cheek, who did the damage. Idris Adeteos drilled a left-foot strike towards the goal, and Cheek threw his chest at the ball, somewhat cheeky as per his nickname, for a very instinctive finish. A well-deserved score of Bromley's first ever League Two goal. Things then got better for Woodman's travelling side as centre-back Kamal Grant had returned for another season on loan from Millwall and powered a header past a despairing hand from substitute Harrogate keeper Mark Oxley. His first ever goal in first-team football to put Bromley 2-0 up. Ellis Taylor of Harrogate forced Grant Smith into a save from a late free kick, but none of Harrogate's 11 shots found their way into Bromley's net as they secured all 3 points and a clean sheet for a near-perfect opening start. Harrogate face Accrington Stanley next in League Two, away from home next weekend, after travelling to Lincoln City in midweek in the Cup, while Bromley get their first taste of EFL Cup action at home against AFC Wimbledon before their first EFL home match again against the same opponents, AFC Wimbledon, next weekend. Bradford City came out their blocks firing at Stadium MK with 2 early goals to sink one of the division's pre-season favourites, MK Dons, with a 2-1 victory. MK Dons featured 7 new players in their starting lineup, and clearly some bedding in would be required for them in the squad. Hot off the news that Pete Winkelman had sold MK Dons after 20 years in charge to a Kuwait-based consortium led by Fahad Al Ghanim. Bradford, meanwhile, fielded 4 of their new signings in Neil Byrne, Aidan Baldwin, Anthony Sarcevic and Tyreek Wright. It took just 2 minutes of the new season for Alex Patterson's wonderful strike to fly into MK Dons' net. It was a quick touch and a powerful long-range effort. It flew past debutant Tom McGill in the MK Dons goal. Probably around 25 yards out, I'd say, an excellent strike. Milton Keynes then caused their own downfall just 3 minutes later with a long ball, bit of head tennis. They failed to clear before Sam Sherring sliced Torek Wright's cross past the goalkeeper. A dreadful own goal for MK Dons, a terrible start to be 2-0 down after just 5 minutes of the new season. On 20 minutes though, Milton Keynes Don did give themselves a lifeline with what turned out to be just a consolation. Alex Gilby, who was obviously excellent in front of goal for them last season, ran onto a Callum Hendry flick on. He outpaced his defender and his finish was really good with the outside right boot into the bottom corner. So some moments are positive for MK Dons. They pressed and pressed in the second half, but ultimately frustration for MK Dons as chance after chance went begging. Gilby, Hendry, Matt Dennis, Stephen Wynne, Tommy Lee, they all missed opportunities as Bradford claimed the points. That first 5 minutes was really costly, ultimately doing the damage. For Bradford, though, that is an excellent win. It will give them extreme confidence with a home tie-up next weekend. Brilliant for Bradford, an excellent start for their fans. Now, MK Dons will want to bounce back next weekend away at Colchester after a trip to Watford in the EFL Cup first round, whilst Bradford hosts Salford City in the league after a trip to Grimsby in the Cup. Captain Marvel Ben Garrity put Port Vale en route to an opening Super Day start at Salford City. A 2-0 win for Port Vale, with memories of last season's awful opening against Barnsley now a distant memory. Carl Robinson lined up his Salford side with a 4-2-3-1 lineup, while Vale opted for 3 defenders with a wing-back approach as they returned to League Two after relegation last campaign. Now, in the game, Luke Garbutt had a first-half effort tipped over the bar for Salford, and Connor Hall saw a long-range effort tipped round the post by Jamie Jones for Port Vale, as both sides looked for the opening goal of the season. Tosin Olopade was fortunate, though, not to see red, as Laurent Tolage, Port Vale's new signing for Aldershot, outpaced the Salford defence and was brought down running on goal. Now, the referee deemed the supporting defender enough. He opted for a yellow, but in truth, it really could have been a red card. It took till stoppage time at the end of the first half for the first goal to hit at the Peninsula Stadium. A Ronan Curtis corner was headed goalwards by Ben Hennigan, forcing Jamie Jones into an instinctive save. But it was Ben Garrity who was on alert. He prodded home from close range, opening his and Port Vale's account for the season. Trouble was then doubled for Salford again when Ronan Curtis on corner duty was causing chaos again. Salford failed to pick up Captain Garrity. He met a header in the 6-yard box unchallenged and flicked it into the bottom corner to put Port Vale 2 goals ahead. And that was how it stayed, despite Salford making 13 attempts. They had 3 on target, but they really failed to threaten Connor Ripley's goal with anything serious, and he dealt with anything that they did have towards his way. Port Vale were tipped by many at the start of the season, and they started well with 3 points to kick off their League Two campaign. Salford will want better things on the road next weekend at Bradford City after their excellent win. A tricky tie against Doncaster Rovers in the EFL Cup await as well. Whilst Port Vale head to Barrow in midweek in the Cup and host Tranmere Rovers, hoping to keep their league form going next Saturday. No one scored or conceded as many as Notts County last season, with 175 in 46 games. So, of course, their first game of this season was destined to end 0-0 with Tranmere Rovers, who also drew the least amount last season. Results-wise, in pre-season, Tranmere would have been the happiest going into this one with some wins under their belt, while Notts County were often on the losing side. But this was an important one over pre-season. Both sides went away with a point in the end. Luke Norris had the first real chance of the game in the 18th minute, but his close-range effort was blocked by Alex Bass, making his debut in goal for Notts County. Sedwin Scott's left-footed shot from the edge of the box was blocked just before the half hour and the best chance in the first half for County. Tranmere then picked up the pace in the second, looking for a chance. Josh Davison was sent running through down the right after a brilliantly spotted and executed pass through the Notts County team, but his effort was easily saved by Bass from 12 yards out. Notts County's best chance fell to Alassane Jatta. He headed over from 6 yards though, and they registered a few half chances late on, but neither side was able to make a breakthrough. They shared the points in the end at Prenton Park. Tranmere now face a daunting trip to Port Vale, who won 2-0 on their opening day next weekend in League Two, after they host Accrington Stanley in the EFL Cup. Notts County saw their name pulled out of the hat in the first round draw to face Shrewsbury Town in midweek, before they host Fleetwood Town in League Two. Walsall win in their opening league match of the season, defeating Morecambe 1-0 at the Poundland Bescott Stadium. Matt Sadler set his Walsall side up with the three at the back wing-back system, with new signings Connor Barrett and Josh Gordon featuring on either side. With Morecambe's transfer embargo now lifted, they'd brought in 17 players over the summer, with 7 of their new additions starting on opening day. Probably going to take some time to gel for Morecambe. A quiet first half saw Jamil Matt have a comical goal chalked offside after he kind of slipped on the ball trying to flick it in. He got back up, tapped it in, but to no avail. He was clearly offside by a few yards. The only goal of the game came in the 20th minute after great work down the right from Connor Barrett. He got his cross in, but it was headed away in the first defender. It dropped out to Taylor Allen, whose wonderful touch on his chest took him inside his marker. He then fired an excellent 20-yard left-footed half volley into the bottom corner. Not bad at all for a defender with 3 goals for Walsall last season. Now, Walsall assistant Gary Waddock managed to get himself sent off, get himself a red card for some choice words made to official at half-time. In the second half, Barrow almost doubled the Sadler's lead, a decent save on the right to Stuart Moore for Morecambe, keeping him out. Moore then managed to fingertips an Allen corner onto the crossbar as Morecambe held on to a 1-goal deficit. The only real chance came from Jordan Slew, blazed over, and it proved a difficult day for Morecambe's attackers as they failed to register a single shot on target in the 1-0 defeat. A lot of squad changes though for the Shrimps so it's expected it was going to take some time to blend together. Walsall travel to Swindon next weekend after a home cup tie against Exeter City in midweek, while Morecambe host League One Huddersfield Town and have to contend with a midweek cup tie with them before travelling back home to take on Gillingham, who were impressive on their opening day with a 4-1 win over Carlisle. That's next weekend. Chesterfield returned to League Two and shared the spoils with Swindon Town on opening night with a 1-1 draw at the SMH Group Stadium. So I've had to re-record this as turns out the original match review I did of this didn't have any sound, which isn't ideal for a match review, so hence it's at the back of this video. Last season, of course, Chesterfield romped the National League and started this campaign with their backline showing 3 new faces. On loan, right back Devon Tanton, centre back Shay Dunkley and left back Lewis Gordon. Swindon had brought in 12 players themselves over the summer, which included an entire new defence and much of a new midfield for the opening day. In the match, it was the League Two returnees Chesterfield who struck first as super striker Will Grigg was sent through on goal from an outside the boot Ollie Banks pass to see a shot bounce up off of Jack Bycroft but remain in the danger zone. Somehow Armando Dobra managed to beat both Bycroft and 4 defenders around the ball to control past the keeper and slot into the net with Swindon defenders slow to react. I'm still baffled how Chesterfield weren't awarded a penalty midway through the first half when Grant Hall was beaten to the ball by Michael Jacobs and looked to clean wipe out the Chesterfield winger. Referee Scott Oldham didn't see it that way, however, and Paul Cook's complaints on saw him issued a yellow card on the sidelines. A deflected shot from Banks sailed wide before the restart, and Grigg had a shot well saved from Bycroft as Chesterfield looked to press their advantage. But in the moment of the game, Will Wright showed just how to bring the ball out from the back as a centre-back, selling a dummy on the halfway line, charging into the space into the middle of the pitch, with Chesterfield unable to get near the defender, as he's just signed from Crawley in the summer, and wow, what a way to announce himself to the new fans as he unleashed a long-range strike at the end of his run into the top right-hand corner for a perfect individual goal in the first match of the season. Overall, Chesterfield dominated in possession and doubled the number of shots to the visitors, with Wright shot the only one on target for Swindon all evening. Swindon head coach Mark Kennedy said they made good progress, what they've been putting together on the training pitch. He specifically praised their structure and discipline out of possession and said they were difficult to break down. Ryan Colclough had headed a corner wide from Ollie Banks with 20 minutes to go. It's the best remaining chance. The honours remained even on opening evening in League Two. Next up for Cheltenham in League Two is a trip away at Crewe Alexandra after a midweek cup trip to Derby, while Swindon take on Crawley Town in the EFL Cup hosting Walsall next weekend. So we put up the table just because it's the opening day of the season, so lots and lots is going to change. But Doncaster and Gillingham at the moment sat at the top after their 4-1 victories. Accrington and Carlisle in those 2 relegation places, but it really doesn't mean anything this early in the season, so don't get despaired if your team's not where you would like it to be. Some fantastic games look ahead next season. There is, of course, cup ties in midweek as well as teams start to get players, fitness and everything else like that. So looking forward to coming back to you next weekend to show you what's going on in League Two. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, support the channel. That would be excellent. Something new I'm doing for this season. And if you love EFL football, don't forget, check out the Absolute Football podcast. Here they are.